I just have to say this real quick. I saw a little thing on Facebook real quick, and it was like Donkey Kong 1981. Yes and no. It was on the Atari 2600, and it was horrendous. It was terrible. The sounds were terrible. It looked Donkey Kong Jr. was just as bad. Nintendo didn't do any favors to the. Maybe they didn't know how to program quite right, or they just didn't want to, because they wanted you to come into the arcades. But I'm sure they made money off those cartridges to some extent. But it was absolutely terrible. I will say this: the Atari 2600. If we didn't have the little levers to be able to change the difficulty settings to some extent, and some people were so good at some of the darn things, you could just go forever and ever and ever with it, with the asteroids, Donkey Kong, Pac Man, whatever. Very few games like Adventure had an ending of any sort, and there were no credits whatsoever except Adventure that I can remember. And it was, even then, that was hidden. That was a trick. That was one of the first, real tricks of the day. Was They still wanted you to quarter crunching in the arcades, which was fun, which was good. And another thing is that the home systems of that time, whether it was the Sears, the Atari 2600, Colecovision, whatever, they didn't make you sit and play for too long. Not hours and hours. Maybe an hour. Maybe 2 hours. Because you couldn't stand those sounds for too long. The arcade versions were top-notch for their time. To me, I still enjoy playing those games from back then. Pooyan, Donkey Kong Jr., Ghosts and Goblins. Oh, golly. Not rock and roll. It was, I forgot the name of that. I have it on the PS1. And some of these games, they like to hold tightly to. We still have not gotten a home version of the Return of Death Adder. Still no home version of Return of Death Adder by Sega. Some of the better games on the Atari 2600 were the ones by Activision, and there's videos about that and why to some extent. It was near the end of that system's life. Listen, the Atari lasted a couple of years, more than a couple of years, and when the ColecoVision came in, we thought it was really cool. Some people went in television, ColecoVision. There were a couple of others, and that's kind of when the home computing stuff kind of came into play to some extent. And, with the Atari 400, Atari 800, Atari 1300 computers, the Omega, the Amiga, whatever it's called, the Coleco's Atom, which was not really good. I knew someone that had it, and his parents did not like him playing on it, even though you could kind of play cassette games on there, and he had a cassette version of Dragon's Lair on it, which was interesting. Of course, it wasn't a cartoon, but it was interesting. It was a little side-scroller that it was pretty fluid. It took a while to load from a cassette, just as Canyon Climber did on the Atari 400, 800 computer, which, 20, 30 minutes to download or upload, whatever you want to call it, from a cassette. And I could go down memory lane and explain a lot of this in many ways. But, yeah, in that little Facebook post that I had mentioned, if you know who I am on Facebook, that I was just like, because they were joking, oh, the old people love this, they still want this now. I'm like, no, I don't want this now. I don't want Beaver Mario. Because when he went up and down the ladders, he looked like a friggin' beaver. It didn't look like Mario. It was terrible. I'd rather, one of the few places I knew where a Donkey Kong machine was way out past Pell City. In a marina, we had to take a boat to get there. And I was lucky enough if my dad and grandfather even allowed me to play it. I would go in there and I'd stick in a quarter maybe if we had the time. Normally we were running to get the Sunday paper for my grandmother and zip right back on the boat. There's a reason for that too. But I'll won't say that now. But, there were arcade machines kind of scattered all over the place. They were kind of niche, but at the same time, again, everywhere. Every gas station. My best friend and I, we get tired of the bing, 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 whatever it was, and that Pac Man on the 2600 was just terrible. I couldn't stand it. It was like, okay, it's like, I'll take it for what it is. It's the home version. I get it. I remember the hype up for it, and then when we finally saw it, I'm like, this isn't Pac-Man. I enjoyed it for what it was. I did the Aikido Tenkawa of, not looking a gift horse in the mouth and holding my breath and enjoying what I had. And sometimes you just have to do that. You just have to do that. But my best friend and I, we would take our bikes. We would ride to the closest gas station just outside our neighborhood, which was not quite a mile away. And they would have 2, maybe 3 arcade games. And, 1942, Ghosts and Goblins, maybe something else on occasion. And they would get swapped out every couple of months. It may have been quicker than that. I don't know. But I remember playing Ghosts and Goblins there a lot in quarter chunking at the gas station. And they didn't mind kids hanging out, because they wanted kids to buy a drink, buy some stuff, chunk quarters in the arcade machines. And arcade machines were found in gas stations all over the place for years. I remember where a 1942 was near where my cousin lived for years. Even after sort of the arcades closed for the most part, you could still find some stuff in gas stations. It was very popular. Early 90s, when Street Fighter II was as phenomenal a phenomenon as almost Pac-Man was in 1980, 81, which was during the time of my hip operation. There was a Street Fighter II in every gas station. Every gas station. And you wanted to check out which version they had, because there was all these different variations of Street Fighter II that were out. And it's like, oh, well, which one is this? Which one is this? Which one is this? And, and trying to play each other and find out what the tricks were and what the moves were. It was a very fun time. And that's about, again, all we had. And it was fun. And it was exciting because, you're on your kids, or, well, at that time I was in my 20s, drive somewhere and meet up with someone, with a friend, and play a 2-player game like that, and just have fun watching your friend play against the computer. And then once you're out of quarters or whatever, it was fun. And we just don't have that synergy much as now as we did then. Something about the actual machines, the feel of the machines, the buttons, the joystick, etc., don't go there. It's just gone. It's almost gone. And the one-up arcade machines are trying to, were a pretty big thing about 5-6 years ago when they first came out. You don't hear of them much anymore. Walmart almost liquidated them. If I'd had the money, or my wife allowed, I could have gotten like a Pac-Man or Miss Pac-Man machine with a couple of games in it for like $50-$60. Those things normally run anywhere $200-$300. And they were liquidating those suckers. And I'm like, oh man, or even if I didn't play what was in it, I probably could easily kit bash it and play my own stuff in there, but oh well. And I've always kind of dreamed about making my own arcade machine for years, but I don't have the time, I don't have the money, I don't have the room either. But with that, I didn't mean to go this long. I had to go, my wife and I are going to go kind of work out and stuff. So we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening. I just had to rant about this because I saw it on Facebook and made a comment, and I'm like, okay, there's some things about the 80s y'all don't know or have misconceptions of, or at least from as Obi-Wan would say from a certain point of view, to try to explain some of this and say, you know, hey, this is what it was like. This is what some of us were thinking, and some of us were like, oh boy, this is bad, but we're going to enjoy it anyway. And a lot of us don't want to go back. We'd like going back to that time for the nostalgia, for the experiences, and to be young and innocent again. But certain people want to take that innocence away today in various ways. That it's just damaging to our kids. But at the same time, you know, going back to that kind of entertainment, oh gosh, those noises. The arcade machines were symphonic compared to some of the home stuff we had on the Atari 400, the Coleco, Intellivision, whatever you want to call it. But with that, I'll let you go. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening, and as always, I almost said Autobots transform and roll out. Why not?